You need to have the synopsis, the log line, the characters, and the first season of the episodes, which means you need to have the episodes lined up, and you need to have the pilot episode in order to have a complete television show pitch. If that's scripted, if it's non-scripted, you need to have.
Hey everyone, I'm your host Kosh. This is the Creative Breakthrough Podcast. This podcast was created to eliminate the starving artist and give creatives the codes to build cash flow audiences and make a living doing what they love. Today I have Armani Martin. She is a film producer and film director.
I'm from Chicago. I went to college at Clark Atlanta University and started from an intern. And I've worked in every medium. I've directed news to digital to commercial to film, from short films now full feature, music videos. I have my own production company. It's called June Entertainment. It's a full service production company where we create creative services. We have production insurance, workers' comp. We have the whole, it's completely full service. I have a VMA nomination for Little Baby Bigger Picture.
Let's go.
And I sell television shows.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's not something to take lightly. So I want to ask you, what is one word you would use to describe yourself? If you only had to use one word, what would you use?
Kind.
I like that. Yeah, no, that's fire.
A lot of people, like in the industry, a lot of people just in life, not even in this industry, they take work too seriously. And what I mean by too seriously, because work is important, but they overanalyze work and equate it to ego. They put power and importance over your job. That's why I say it so easily, because it's what I do or what I've accomplished, but it's not who I am. So
yeah, I understand that, because I started in this industry. I started directing and producing, so I understand there's a lot of things that go into it that are very superficial. And you have to be able to separate yourself from that, where you can, well, a lot of people, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people get caught up in that. Has that been your experience?
yeah, I was a starving artist. Every job that I had, I would fund my own movie. So I was poor. I had just bought a house and I was trying to flip it so I can eventually move to LA. That was my, goal. I bought my first house while I was in college, and I needed money to fix it up, and I needed money to get to LA and pitch shows and stuff like that. So it was very difficult for me. It was a difficult process.
How many years did it take you to go from getting that house, I'm guessing in Atlanta, right?
Yes.
To transitioning to LA to making money? Like, what was that process like?
When I bought my house, I was 22. I'm going to just tell you the story. When I bought my house, I was 22. I was a junior in college. At the same time, I made my first short film, and I was directing and producing segments for ABC News and working at Atlanta Journal-Constitution as a multimedia journalist. So I was over online content for videos for the platform, for the newspaper. So I was doing that. I was production managing music videos.
What year is this?
This is 2016.
Okay.
Yes, this is 2016. So I did all of this in the span of, I want to say, 6 months. So I was making money while I was in college, but it was just a lot of money that flipping a house isn't cheap. So I moved to LA in 2019, August of 2019. I want to say I was starving for 2 years. From 2015 to 2017, I was starving.
What does starving look like?
Meaning I was eating pizza rolls and cereal for breakfast and dinner, and thank God ABC News fed me during the day. That's what I mean starving.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Honestly, I would say 2 years seems like you leveled up fairly quickly. So let me understand, like, how did you buy a house in the first place? Like, how did you get the money to do that?
Well, they have a lot of grant programs. I'm a finesser, so I only paid $1,500 for my house.
That might be another podcast that we have to do, like the finesse of the houses. when do you think you achieved your first creative breakthrough? Like what
My
year?
first
What were you
movie, so
doing?
I was driving, it was December 2015. I was, everybody told me I couldn't be a director. Everybody told me that I couldn't do it.
Mm.
Everybody said that I needed all of this money and everything. And I just decided, you know, F what everybody said, I'm going to just do it myself. So I was driving in my car and I was listening to this song called War from this guy named King Los. And I created this movie on the expressway. I pulled over on the expressway and I just wrote down what my thoughts were. And my first movie was about the oppression of 3 Black boys and the trials and tribulations it took them from getting from home to school. And I was just thinking about my experience as a Black woman, not only just every day growing up on the south side of Chicago, the huge difference like maneuvering from the hood into the college space and being, you know, an adult without my parents. That huge transition was a lot for me. So I saved up for 2 months and my DP and I split the cost, and I just worked 67 hours a week and saved up. And I paid for the movie, but I forgot about you also have to pay to attend the film festivals. So I thought I was done paying for things, and I had to pay to enter the film festivals, and I had to pay for plane tickets, and I had to pay for hotels. So, you know, by buying the house, I was pretty much living rent free because my roommates paid my mortgage. And mortgages are always less than rent. So I really had the cheap code. So that was my process. And then I started doing my homework. A lot of people think, oh, the film industry, even acting is easy. Acting is one of the most difficult jobs in the film industry because you literally have to evolve into another person, and people just read the words and they really don't understand character. So I really took the time to understand character. I read Robert McKee's story, all of his books, dialogue that came out later, a lot of directing books. I literally downloaded scripts, PDFs, and watched them with the movies. So it was a lot of homework that I did in order to be successful because I didn't have any resources.
Yeah. But you had resourcefulness.
Right. Uh-huh. I made my
Yeah.
way. I made my own way.
Yeah. No, that's an incredible story, and I wanted to ask because you touched on it a bit. You said that you spend a lot of money, and that's something that I see with a lot of creatives is a fear of spending money or not being willing to do the work to get the money to spend it on what they want, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you weren't afraid to do that because you very specifically said you worked 67 hours a week.
Mm-hmm. A
So
week.
you remember that vividly, right? Like,
Yes. Well, I had to because I had to every time I had to put in my timesheet. So it would tell me how many hours I worked in a week, and I would add it up with both of only 2 jobs. And remember, I was still interning on the side and going to school part time.
this is such a great. Thank you for sharing this. Like,
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
so incredible.
that's the beginning of my story, and that's how I got started, you know.
Yeah.
that's that's how that was how my beginning was. Like, that wasn't to maintain, because actually I have this really great director friend. His name is Bobby Hutley, and somehow I don't know how he keeps doing it. He's an independent film director, and he's so talented, he's so great. He's based in Atlanta, and I was so proud of him, but I couldn't afford to keep making movies. And
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting here like, he's putting out all these movies, and I want to do that, and I'm over here working these dead end jobs just to survive. And I was getting I was being known as a producer and an executive producer. And I didn't know this at the time, but I was really completely understanding production. And now I'm like this super production beast, which is definitely beneficial for, you know, me directing now. But it was hard for me because I'm like, this is not what I want to do. I've sacrificed my whole life while everybody was in college going to spring break in Miami, you know, having fun with refund checks. I used my refund check to buy a house.
Mm.
I just got a boyfriend at 28, and it's my first boyfriend in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
sacrifices that I was making.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what was the point of all of this? I had to rediscover me and realign. And I got lost in the ego also, because I'm sitting here like, oh, with these music videos, I'm working with the Migos and I'm working with Lil Baby. And people think I'm cool. You know, like people think I'm popping. I'm going to all these Hollywood parties and everything. You know, now I got money. I can buy anything I want. I just bought these Versace boots and blah blah blah. And I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck am I doing this for? Excuse my language. I was like, this is not what I want to do, and what am I keeping up with? So I took a year off. It's really 2 years off. I had savings from my house, from flipping my house. And I had to take a year off, 2 years off, to realign my energy, realign my mind, and realign my humbleness, and avoid any ego as much as possible.
The story just keeps getting more and more incredible. So I wanna ask more specific questions in regards to that. So you mentioned starving for 2 years, 67 hours a week eating pizza rolls, and so from that time to when you started making money, you're saying, oh, now I'm popping and I'm making money. What did that, if you could give me a ballpark range, what did that look like from a financial standpoint?
Well, my company in 2020 made, I was definitely I was above six figures with
Mm-hmm.
me personally, not including my production company. I was,
Wow.
well.
That's incredible. And that went from what ballpark, what were you making at the time you were working 67 hours and eating pizza rolls?
Well, technically I was making 41,000.
Yeah, no, it's so inspiring. And also what I want to say to the audience is that, like, if you just go hard, you can see, like, in 2 years, if you make enough sacrifices, you can change your whole existence.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a matter of, like, okay, does this new reality that I have, does that align with who I am as a human being? And so that's why I'm so glad that you brought up the point about, like, taking time off and realigning yourself, because at the end of the day, like, the wellness aspect is often overlooked, especially in this industry.
It's also important because I was blessed enough where I could take 2 years off.
Yeah.
A lot of people may not be in that situation.
Yeah.
Like, but also a lot of people don't work 67 hours a week, not including, you know what I'm saying? So I literally needed that break or I was going to go crazy. It's just taking your time out and checking yourself and holding yourself accountable. A lot of people do not want to hold themselves accountable.
Absolutely.
You know, if you do something bad by somebody, you know, you're human. Like,
Right.
but own up to it and apologize for it and talk it through and ask yourself, why did you do that? And once you realize that and you talk to yourself and you hold yourself accountable, you become a better person, you become a better boss.
A
You
better
don't know
leader.
how many times, you know, I messed up, and I mean, my bosses have messed up, and then they threw me underneath the bus and I got fired for it, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Me, if I mess up, I say my bad.
Right.
If you don't like it, if you want to fire me, that means I had some other money to make somewhere else.
Right. Facts.
Life
But
is short.
that's a great way to look at it, because it's an abundance mindset. And for people who don't know how film industry works, especially when you're producing or directing, there's a million questions being asked all at the same time, and you have to try to answer all of them simultaneously. And there's moments where people's emotions or egos get involved where they shouldn't, because it should be a one team, one goal situation, but that's not always what happens. And so what you said about apologizing, like, I've experienced that with higher ups. I've seen very similar things, but you made a key point, and that's about accountability. And I think what goes along with accountability is being willing to tell yourself the truth and not lie to yourself.
I think also a key point is, in the film industry, every department is like a train. So if anytime somebody is not together or not aligned, if your links aren't together and somebody's at the finish line and nobody else is at the finish line, you don't have a finished product. It's like an assembly line, but you treat everybody with respect. It's not like an abusive assembly line, but
Yeah,
you
absolutely. Yeah, I believe I like to tell people to imagine it like track like a track meet and you're passing the baton.
know.
And so each person has to pass that baton and if somebody drops the baton, that could be the last step of whatever needed to be accomplished and it can mess up the entire shoot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the amount of trust that you have to have. And just so I'm clear, right? And just so we can explain this to people who don't know, because I want to make sure I'm correct about this as well. But typically, you can work on set with a lot of people that you have never worked with or know before.
Often, I want to say 98% of the time, I work with people I never worked before.
Yeah.
Normally, like you try to hire the same people on, but with schedules and everything, you go with word of mouth. Honestly, word of mouth is the key thing in the film industry because if your name is ruined, nobody wants to work with you. Nobody wants to sit and work with somebody for 10 to 16 hours a day and your attitude is boo boo. I know I don't, like, and sometimes, people in a position of power, they can have a boo boo personality and we just all have to be miserable. But, like, I don't want to be miserable at work. Like, I don't think anybody wants to work in the film industry because it's great. It's because we love it. And this is everything we dreamed of, and this is what we want to do. Working in this in the entertainment industry is awful. I don't know. People have this like fairy tale. It's awful. It's
Yeah.
exhausting. You work long hours. The payoff is great. If you're a woman, sometimes you get sexualized. You know what I'm saying? There's no HR. You know what I mean? These are real conversations. Everybody wants to think that, the film industry is like the best thing ever. And it is great, but it is hard fucking work. You have to wake up every day. You have to work on your craft. You have to study and you still gotta work and you still gotta pay your bills.
Right.
And sometimes you're dealing with between 10 to 50 people every day and you might not get along with them.
Yeah.
Normally, thank God, people in the film industry, are funny and they're great to work with, because they have to be or they will never work again. But that's
But
just
it's
a fact.
personalities. It's 10 to 50 different personalities that you're meeting for the first time in one day. And if you're directing, and sometimes if you're producing too, you have to lead all of those people. So it's like leading an entire football team for the first time. Like this is the first game and you never practiced.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. So, especially if you're shooting a movie, it was the movie I just got finished shooting literally last night. I had to go through three different crews, three different whole crews. And the first day, get the first day jitter. So, the first day, again, it was already an impossible mission. Like, we had to shoot 90 pages in 10 days. And if you have a limited amount of money, right? Let me give you the spectrum, right? This is my first low budget feature. This is not, it will go on a very, very high streaming device, but I'm not about to make it seem like this movie is Harry Potter, right?
But tell me, but you said low budget. So what is low budget for people who don't know?
It's different. It's ultra low to low to it's different. It's different because I was just the director. I don't know what the end number was, but I'm guessing 300,000,
Okay.
which is extremely low. So if I was basically shooting like, let's say I was shooting Harry Potter, right? Because I love Harry Potter. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. If I had that much money and that many resources, and it was a studio film, all of that, right?
Wait, let me pause you. What is that much money? I like to get specific.
Let's just say unlimited money, 90 million, Top Gun. I don't care. Like, just imagine we have a lot of money, right? On a normal high budget film, the max pages they do, if they shoot 7 pages, it's like whoa. But normally people do 3 to 5 pages. I shot between 9 to 15 pages a day with no money. With no money.
Oh my gosh.
with different crews. I was stressed the fuck out. I cried like 2 times because my AD, I love her to death, Mary. She was the best AD. If it wasn't for her, the movie would not have gotten done. But I almost had a nervous breakdown because I shot between 9 to 11 pages of a script. So that means like shooting 3 to 6 scenes a day, which means I think you all also need to understand what I mean by that is, let's say we're having one dialogue and it's of 3 people, right? I have to get a wide of the 3 people, which is one lighting setup. And then I got to get a 2 shot of 2 people. And then that's another lighting setup. And then I have to get singles of everything else. And that's another lighting setup. And then we have to get inserts of everything. And they
So let me pause you because I want to break down all those terms so people understand what you're saying. So
right.
when she says I have to get a wide and then a 2 shot and then inserts and then singles, that's a different lighting setup. It's the same scene, but
it's the same scene, but it's a different shot.
Right, it's a different shot. So you have to reposition the lights, you have to reposition the cameras, the crew has to be repositioned. Everything is repositioned to shoot the exact same scene over and over again, and that's if the actors get it spot on in one take, like one take Drake.
Yep.
Okay, so keep going. Okay, keep going.
So pretty much, I think it was like the second week of shooting, and we had an actor come late. And this is one of those shoots where nobody can mess up. Nobody can mess up.
There's not enough time or money.
Right, and you can't keep them on set past normal working hours. That's another thing. So when I say 12 hours, that is 12 hours, which means it takes an hour to load in all the equipment, right? And then it takes normally 20 to 40 minutes to relight and reposition a whole scene. And if we're in the same scene, normally it takes 10 to 20 minutes. Now I know this is my producer brain speaking. So then now we're talking about loading out now. So now it takes normally an hour and 30 minutes to load out. So really, when I say we have 12 hours, I really mean we have 8 principal hours of shooting. So everything has to be on point, because once shooting is over, and because now I'm currently in post, you can't go back and reshoot. What you have is what you have. There's no redoing. There's no, like, let's just go to Target, pick up some things and redo it. No, it's nothing like that at all. So
and that film is one production camera, or are you using multiple at the same time?
Well, it depends on the shoot, but this production we use 2 cameras.
Okay, got you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's so incredible. So you spoke on this a little bit, but especially regarding that situation specifically, but are there like 3 systems or strategies that you use to break through? I mean, initially to break through, but also in what you're doing now.
You saying during like the hard times?
Yeah, but I also want to know about when you're popping too.
When I'm down and when I'm popping, I literally yell out, "I'm a big girl." If you know me, I yell out, "I'm a big girl" randomly. I don't care if I picked up something heavy. I'll just affirm myself and say, "Oh, wow, I'm a big girl. I'm proud of myself." It means I'm proud of myself. A lot of people need word affirmation, which I like words of affirmation too, of other people telling me, but I give myself, I'm a big girl, which means I am proud of myself for doing whatever I'm doing. Or sometimes if I feel that I cannot do it, I will say I'm a big girl to let me know you are capable of all things.
Yo, that's incredible, because I had a saying that I would use with my team. And when I still direct, I use this saying, but I get everybody together and I look at them and I'm like, you do this. That's why you're here, because you do this. And I do this. And I tell myself that I do this. And I tell each person that they do this, because I'm not there to micromanage people. So
right.
If you do set design, go do it. If you gaff, go do it. If you have a question, ask. But if you want my opinion on how it needs to look, I'm going to give you that. But also, I don't have time to micromanage you.
But it's really important. A lot of people, I'll never forget when I was interning and somebody asked me to bring a C-47. I didn't know what the hell
Right.
And I was scrambling trying to figure out like what to bring, and I brought a C-stand over. Looked at me like I was crazy, and
Yeah.
he was just like, "If you don't know something, just ask, because you just wasted 15 minutes looking
Right.
for something, and I needed it now, and now you got to go back and get it."
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
And that's the humbleness that many people that are behind the camera have, but it's about letting go of your ego and saying I don't know, and being okay with that. Like, for people who don't know, a C-47 is
a clip.
a clothespin. It's a clothespin, but they call it that because why did they? Do you even know why they call it
I
that? I
don't.
don't know.
But they
Yeah.
call a C-46, which is that same clothespin, but just backwards. I don't know. I should actually ask for the history of C-47s. Somebody asked the question.
Would you say that joining the union is the fastest way to get in production work?
It depends on which union, first off. But I'm not in the union, and I've never had issues getting work. If you have issues with getting work, it also depends on what you do. But normally, I get random people calling me for work. It's all about word of mouth. You can also go on Facebook. They have these groups for, reality working TV. You can hit up people that you know, or on DMs and stuff like that, and say, hey, like, I'm available. I do this. Here's my reel, or whatever the case is. Also finding different production companies.
Another hack to finding jobs is go on Craigslist and look in the gig section and look under creative gigs, and you'll find a lot of film production jobs.
If you're a grip, you need to hit up Kinship Works. There's this other producer. Her name is Princess.
When you get on set, if you want to get more jobs, because Armani mentioned this earlier, it's about relationships. So you need to introduce yourself to as many people as possible within the downtime that you have and get their contact information, because that will help you get a lot of jobs and build relationships to get more jobs in the future.
It's so much work in Atlanta. If you can't find work in Atlanta, it's something you're doing wrong. Like, people are paying me, well, trying to pay me, because I'm not going back to Atlanta. But people are trying to pay me to travel back to Atlanta to do stuff. People need crew, from television shows to everything. People need crew. So you got to get out there and network, and you got to talk to other grips and key grips, because when they're not available, producers always ask for recommendations. You need to be on that recommendations list.
So Armani, we got another question. Okay, it says how can you pitch your music to films or TV shows?
It's all about really knowing music supervisors. All the film industry, yes, is about working hard, but it's really primarily like who you know. So you need to hit up music supervisors if you're a music composer yourself, getting to know producers to put you on those jobs, and directors as well. Let's talk about anybody who wants to start out with anything. Support independent filmmakers. That's how a lot of people get their start. There were so many DPs, camera ops, and everything that worked on my first movie. Even actors. A lot of people try to get these big actors. I work with people who's talented. I don't care about their name. So if you trying to get your start with music or anything, work with people who are starting out. Believe in people, and they will believe in you. There's so many people that I started out with that I'm still rocking with, and nobody can tell me otherwise.
So do you like LA more than Atlanta?
Okay, definitely. LA is way more draining. It's really like keeping up with the Joneses type of thing. When you're a blessing, people are a blessing to you. Like, somebody blessed me with a job with Love and Hip Hop. When I first moved to LA, I was like 3 days in, and I couldn't do a job. And my little sis here, she needed a job, and I recommended her. It was, it's just, it always comes full circle. You just never know. But no, LA is toxic. So is Atlanta. You just got to take care of yourself and take care of your health.
Okay, so I want to play a game real quick. The game is going to be called, I just made it up. It's going to be called What is More Toxic?
Okay.
LA or Atlanta?
Atlanta.
And why?
I don't want to offend anybody because we're all humans and we're all equal. But it's just when, and this is my personal experience, that may not be a lot of people's first personal experience. When I first got to Atlanta, I loved how many Black people was in a position of power, and I loved that. I loved all. This was my first time seeing a whole city ran by Black people, excelling with Black people. Like I loved it. But it got to a point where I was coming in rooms and people didn't want to really pay me any attention unless they knew who I was already. It was that type of thing. Like I would be like, "Hey, other human beings, we're all at the bar," and people would not even give me eye contact to somebody that was of importance. Say, "Hey, y'all don't know Armani? She did this, this, and this." And then they would say, "Oh, like let me get your number." Like, no, bitch, I don't want your number anymore. It was that type of experience for me constantly. And that hasn't been my experience in LA. I really didn't have like a fantastic personal friend group tribe. Of course, I worked with a lot of great people, but I have a lot of friends here. I go out now.
You got a man. Don't
I
forget, you
got
got a man.
him, and he's a good one.
Before I go, I just want you to let people know how they can connect with you, the best way that they can.
My email that's on Instagram. Normally, I DM very quickly. I am currently not on social media. I only got on here for Kosh. I do not know when I'm going to be returning. I'm deleting it as soon as I get off here. But I can email anybody that can ask you that. I respond to my emails. I respond to normally DMs. I talk to people, I give advice. I am really busy right now because I'm in post production for my first movie, and I'm literally post producing 6 court TV shows. So I'm kind of busy, but if you have patience from me, I will answer anything.
One more question that I just thought of that I want to ask you is, you said earlier that you're selling films. So can you give me like the bullet points of how you do that?
No, it's no bullet points. There's no bullet points. I could tell you what you need to do is if you want to start pitching shows or movies, you don't have to have a series Bible, but it's best for you if you want to be a showrunner as well to have a series Bible. You need to have a pitch deck. In that pitch deck, you need to have the synopsis, the log line, the characters, and the first season of the episodes, which means you need to have the episodes lined up and you need to have the pilot episode in order to have a complete television show pitched. If that's scripted, if it's non-scripted, you need to have for a pitch deck everything except of course the script. But instead of the script, you really need to have a story arc and a character breakdown, a very thorough character breakdown, and you need to have the various story arcs. You need to have conflict A, like the A story, the B story, the C story, and the D story. For film, of course, you need to write the film. You need to go and get it checked out. I'm sorry, a lot of people think that, oh, like I wrote a movie, it has to be great. It might not be great. Get it checked out. And some people think, a lot of people are narcissistic, like I've written a lot of stuff that's not good. Not everything I write is great. So have other people that you trust read it. Get every script registered by the WGA so nobody steals it. And that expires every 2 years. Also, pitching takes a long process. If you pitch it to one person and they don't bite, take criticism, but sometimes people are wrong. Like if you think you have a great thing, it's like it's a balance. Because some people think they have a great thing and normally they don't. But if you did your due diligence and you think you have a good thing and you pitch it to somebody else and take the criticism. And also as a creator, a lot of people don't get their stuff sold because they're a creator and they don't want wiggle room. They want to keep everything. They think everything they have is genius and they don't want to be flexible creatively. That's not how things operate. When you sell your stuff, you have the network, you have the production company, you have a lot of people that's going to have say so. And if you don't want to maneuver, then you might as well either quit the business or win the lottery slash become a millionaire in another, business, come back and fund your own stuff, and then still try to get it distributed. Because a lot of times you can fund your own things and you still can't get it distributed. So
this information. Well, first of all, I'm just happy I got the Armani exclusive. So thank you. Also, this information is needed, so thank you for sharing it. Two things I wanted to ask you. One is, can you explain to people what a showrunner is?
a showrunner is the person who runs the show, literally. A showrunner sometimes can be the executive producer, but sometimes a showrunner is just a showrunner. The showrunner is a person who is basically bridge the gap between the network and crew. They are the set boss, other than, of course, the AD. Basically, when the line producer is running out of money or the director's not listening to the producers, like that's who they go tell. If it's a scripted television series, normally you have different directors. So the showrunner is a person who oversees the directors, because in television, really the writers and the producers are the stars. The directors are, just the directors. So they basically keep the vision in this Bible in line, because when you have different directors, it's a strong possibility one episode can look totally different from the next. It's their job to make sure that it doesn't look different.
And then my second question is, how do you find people to pitch to? How did you do it? Leverage? Was it just relationships over time?
Relationships over time. I have an agency. Also, I attach important people to my projects. That's another thing. It's all about who you know, who you sign with, and, it's really luck, honestly.
Well, I don't think there's any luck about your story, but thank you. Last thing I want to ask you is, what is your astrological sign?
I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, okay. That's why we get along, because you're very straight to the point. I'm Aquarius.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you don't play. Like, Scorpio people, if they don't fuck with you, they just don't fuck with you.
Anybody who I don't like, they know. But they know, it's all love.
It's all love, but I'm not fucking with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's Scorpio, like, in one sentence. Once again, this is the Creative Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Kosh. The podcast was created to eliminate the starving artist. Today, it was to eliminate the starving filmmaker. And if you want to stay tuned for more conversations like this, then you can just follow me, and I do this every single week. So thank you again, Armani. Peace and love, y'all. Have a good night.